to this. Less than 24 hours until Election Day, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump storming ahead at full speed in the final hours of their campaigns on a battleground blitz to make their closing arguments to voters.
Strategy important here, of course, and Trump choosing to rally in North Carolina, Michigan, and Pennsylvania today, while Harris is focusing solely on Pennsylvania. The Keystone State could prove to be just that when all the votes are tallied. A keystone in this race. Winning it, likely sending either candidate to the White House.
Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger standing by for us in Philadelphia. But we want to start with Phil Tate, live in Midtown with the latest on this really tight race. Phil?
Danny, election week is here. More than 77 million Americans have already cast their ballots, and this as both candidates are preparing to wrap up their campaigns. But first, a final push for the White House after a very busy weekend. In what will be one of her final pitches to voters, Vice President Harris rallied in Michigan Sunday, focused on the future.
I see a nation determined to turn the page on hatred and division and chart a new way forward.
Alongside Arab American leaders vowing to end the war in Gaza, an issue that has fractured parts of the Democratic Party.
We need to end the war, and we need to get the hostages out. And as President of the United States, I will do everything in my power to achieve that end and a two-state solution.
Former President Trump visited 3 battleground states Sunday, pledging to tackle the economy and inflation, and making this promise while in Georgia about his administration if reelected.
It's going to be so good. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be nasty a little bit at times, and maybe at the beginning in particular.
In the closing stretch, Trump has used increasingly incendiary rhetoric against his political opponents and the press.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much.
Earlier today on Good Morning America, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke about the closing arguments both parties have given as we get closer to Election Day.
Vice President Harris is closing strong. She's closing with a positive vision. She is going to bring people together. The other side is trying to tear us apart. And you think about the closing week that the other side has had, from the hate fest at Madison Square Garden to threatening to repeal and displace millions of people from the Affordable Care Act, as well as the violent and the vile and the vicious rhetoric. Doesn't seem to me that that's a strong closing argument.
Throughout the campaign, the two candidates have stayed deadlocked within the margin of error, reflected still in the latest and final ABC News ISPIS poll. But a new Des Moines Register poll shows Iowa, a state that has voted for Trump twice, in a surprisingly close race, with Harris leading months after the state's 6-week abortion ban went into effect. And as the candidates make their final pitch to voters, former President Donald Trump counts things down on the vote and also bringing up past grievances, the 2020 election. We're live outside of Trump Tower this morning. I'm Phil Tate, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Phil, thank you. From here in New York City to what could be the most important swing state, Pennsylvania. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger continues our coverage from Philadelphia. Josh, we got both candidates they're going to be in Philadelphia later today. What can we expect in these final hours from them?
Shirlene, Mike, good afternoon. Good morning, I should say, from Philadelphia. Behind